I opened my eyes, but I couldn't see anything. Everything was pitch black. I tried to sit up, but I was tied down by something. That's when I realized I had been blindfolded. I didn't have a clue what had happened to me. But I knew one thing. Whatever it wasn't good. I heard the sound of a door opening. I couldn't hear anyone, but I could sense that someone was standing over me, watching me. "Who's there?" I asked. My voice sounded nervous and scared. I could hear two voices whispering to each other. One was male, one was female. I struggled to free myself from the chains that were holding me down. "Don't bother trying to escape," said the male voice. "You're going to be here for a very long time." Fear ran through my body at his words. I wanted to cry, but I took a deep breath and controlled myself. That's when the girl spoke to me. I thought I recognized her voice, but couldn't be sure. "Who are you?" I asked again. "What do you want with me?" But before I go on, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single crazy story. It all started 1 year ago. It was a Monday morning and I was late for school as usual. I just got dressed and was on my way downstairs when I heard my mom crying in the kitchen. I jumped the last 3 stairs and ran through to her. "What's the matter, Mom?" I asked. "Why are you crying?" Mom looked up at me. She had a piece of paper in her hand and she held it out to me. "You better read this," she said. "It's from your dad." I took the piece of paper and read what my dad had written. It said that he was very sorry, but he couldn't live with us anymore. He was moving to another city and we had to get on with our lives. "But what about Dad's business?" I asked Mom. "What will happen to all his employees?" My dad ran a very successful cargo company. He had hundreds of employees who all depended on him. That's when Mom dropped the bombshell. "You will have to take over the running of your dad's business," she said. "There's no other choice." My mom contacted my school and told them that I wouldn't be going in, that I was needed at the family business. The school said that as long as I continued with my studies and did all my homework, then they would be fine with me running the company. So that's how I ended up as the CEO of a company at 13 years old. The following day, I started work. I got to the office and met my secretary, Lynn. She showed me all the files that needed working on that day and asked if I needed anything. I'm fine for now," I said. "Maybe later." Lynn left my office and I looked around me. The whole place looked so stuffy and boring. Definitely not somewhere I wanted to spend every day. I decided I was going to make some changes. I picked up the telephone and Lynn answered. I told her that I wanted someone to go out and buy a bunch of PlayStations and computers with the latest games. I wanted them all set up in a private room. I also wanted another room with a large screen to show movies and listen to music. I knew that once I had some fun stuff to do there, going to work wouldn't be too bad. I picked up the files that I was meant to work on that day. I had a quick glance through them and then tossed them onto my desk. I wasn't going to waste my time working on those. I decided I would go and check out the break room. When I got there, a few of the employees were sitting having a coffee or a bite to eat. When they saw me walk in, they jumped up to say hello. Everyone seemed super friendly and wanted to impress me. One of the older men came towards me. "Good morning, Mr. Jack," he said to me. "Welcome to the company. I'm Robert." "Get me a Coke, will you, Robert?" I said. "Oh, and a donut, too." Robert looked a little surprised, but he went over to the counter and got what I'd asked for. When he came back with them, I said to him, "Oh, and I'm going to need someone to do my homework for me." "Yes, Mr. Jack," he replied. "Of course." I smiled to myself. I think I'm going to enjoy working here after all. I decided that I would send out a memo to all the employees. I called Lynn into my office and told her what I wanted her to write. "Memo to all staff. I am the boss now, and you will all worship me. You will do anything that I ask you to do. If you don't obey me, then you will lose your jobs." The weeks went by, and it wasn't too long before I had the employees doing everything I wanted. I would send them out to buy my favorite snacks or the latest magazine I wanted to read. But even though I had them all doing everything I wanted, I missed spending time with my friends. That's when I came up with a plan. I decided that I would invite all my classmates to come and spend the day at my office with me. Everyone was excited to be there. We sat and played computer games all day. We sent out for pizza, watched movies. It was so much fun. But the best part of them coming was meeting Jessica. I'd never seen Jessica before. She was a new girl at school. She had started the day I left to come and run the business. She was absolutely gorgeous. I just had to get a date with her. The movie finished and everyone started getting their coats and bags and began to leave. Jessica was standing just behind me. I really wanted to impress her. That's when I saw Robert walking across the library. I thought that if she saw how I could order the employees around, she would think I was so cool. She would want to date me. "Robert," I shouted, "go get me a coffee, now." I looked back at Jessica. I hoped she would be smiling, but instead, her face had dropped. She looked kinda sad. "What's wrong?" I asked her. "Oh, nothing," she said, smiling again. I thought that maybe I'd misread her look. She waved goodbye and left with the others. I invited my friends over a few times. We always had lots of fun, but I still hadn't had a date with Jessica. Then, one Friday evening, I got the surprise of my life. I was sitting in my room after dinner when I heard the ping on my phone. I looked at the message. It was from Jessica. "Hi," she had written. "Do you want to meet me at the park tomorrow at 1 o'clock? My heart skipped a beat. Finally, she had fallen for me. I wasn't surprised, really. I waited a couple of minutes before replying. I didn't want her to think I wasn't cool. "Sure, sounds good," I wrote. I could hardly sleep a wink that night. All I could think about was my date with Jessica the next day. I wondered if I should hold her hand or try to give her a kiss. My stomach flipped at the thought of that. The next day, I jumped on my bike and rode down to the park. When I got there, I could see Jessica sitting on a bench at the other side of the park. I locked my bike up and walked over to her. I was about 10 meters from her when I suddenly felt someone grab me from behind. Then, someone else put a blindfold over my eyes. At the same time, I felt the pain on the side of my head. It felt like someone had hit me. Everything turned black and I passed out. When I woke up, I didn't know where I was. Someone took off the blindfold from my eyes. I blinked as the bright light hit my eyes. The first person I saw was Robert. He was standing over me, looking menacing. "Robert, why have you done this to me?" I asked. But before Robert had time to answer, I noticed Jessica standing behind him. "Jessica," I screamed. "Are you okay? Have they hurt you?" Jessica walked towards me. "No, they haven't hurt me. I was in on their plan. I'm the one who helped them kidnap you." "But why would you do that?" "Because Robert is my father, and nobody treats him the way you did and gets away with it." I looked at them both in shock. I couldn't believe that Jessica was Robert's daughter. "You have to let me go," I said, "or you will both regret it." But they had no intention of letting me go. It didn't matter how much I pleaded with them or threatened them. They refused to undo the chains that were tying me down. It was a few hours later when they told me they were going to leave. They told me they would be sending someone else to watch over me, and they left the room. It was a few minutes later, I heard the door open and saw the silhouette of a man entering the room. I couldn't see his face, but I could see that he was wearing the company uniform, the same clothes that Robert had worn. As he came towards me, I could see that he was wearing a mask. I was just about to ask who he was when he bent down and started undoing my chains. "Quick," he said, "we have to get you out of here." I looked at him in shock. I would recognize that voice anywhere. I pulled the mask from his face. "Dad," I screamed, "what are you doing here?" "Let's get you out of here first, and I'll explain everything," he said. We ran out of the building and jumped into Dad's car, which was parked outside. Dad began to tell me exactly what had been going on. He hadn't wanted to leave me and my mom, but he had no choice. You see, his rival company had been threatening him. They told him that if he didn't leave the company, they were going to assassinate him. "I've been working at the company in disguise since the day you left," he told me. "I wanted to stay close to you in case they tried to hurt you." "But how did you know where I was?" I asked him. "I overheard Robert and Jessica talking about kidnapping you," he said, "so I told them that I wanted to help them." Dad had convinced them to let him take over the night shift watching me. He knew that if they left him alone with me, that would be his chance to set me free. "So what are we going to do about Robert and Jessica?" I asked him. "We're going straight to the police station now," said Dad. We told the police everything that they had done to me. "Have you any idea where they might be now?" the policeman asked me. I gave him Jessica's address. "I want to come with you," I said to the police. "I want to see Jessica's face when she knows that I'm free." Dad and I jumped in the back of the police car and we drove to Jessica's house. The police hammered on the door. "Open up! It's the police!" they shouted. The door opened and Jessica and Robert were both standing there. They both looked shocked to see me. The policeman put handcuffs on them both and took them out to the police car. As the policeman was putting Jessica into the car, she turned to me and cried, "Jack, please help me. It wasn't me that wanted to kidnap you. If you help me, I promise I will date you." "No way," I said, laughing. "You had your chance with me and you blew it." Dad and I watched as the police car drove off with Robert and Jessica in it. "Come on," said Dad. "I think we'd better go see Mom." When we arrived home, I opened the front door. I could hear Mom in the kitchen, and judging by the smells coming from there, she was cooking my favorite dinner. "Mom, I have a surprise for you," I shouted. She walked out of the kitchen. When she saw Dad standing behind me, she dropped the glass she was holding and it smashed to smithereens. "It's okay," I said to her. "Dad never wanted to leave us. He only did it because he had no other choice." Once Dad had told Mom the full story, she totally understood that he had needed to leave us. But now, he was back, and he wasn't going to leave us again. He told us that he would come to some agreement with the competitors and I would go back to school. I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard him say that. I had definitely had enough of being a CEO for a while. It would be nice to go back to being a normal kid again.